She told me we needed a break to see if we missed each other. I didn't argue. I told her I understood, and I meant it in a way she probably didn't expect. While she was thinking about space and distance, I was already thinking about change. I took that so-called break and turned it into a project. I started going back to the gym, chased a promotion at work, and even began seeing someone new. 3 months later, her message came through. I miss you. My reply was short and sharp. Sorry, who is this? Amelia and I had been together for 4 years. She didn't even have the nerve to call it what it was. She said it was a break, not a breakup. I knew better. It was the sort of move you pull when you want to keep someone close enough for comfort, but far enough to test other options. We were in the apartment we had shared for 2 years when she gave me the speech. She had been quieter lately, a little removed, and I could sense a conversation was coming. She looked at me with a face she had clearly practiced, a careful blend of regret and resolve. She talked about us being stuck, how she loved me but needed perspective, and how a few months apart without contact might help us see what we really wanted. I listened without interrupting. I knew what she was really saying. A break isn't a pause. It's the first step out the door. It's leaving with the right to come back if things don't work out elsewhere. Arguing would have been pointless. Pleading would have made me look desperate. I simply nodded and told her I respected her need for space. That's when I saw it, the relief in her eyes. She had expected drama, maybe even begging. Instead, I gave her nothing to push against. That same night, she packed a bag, said she'd arrange for the rest of her things later, and left with a faint smile, claiming it was for the best. The apartment felt unnervingly quiet after she closed the door. 4 years of shared life can't vanish without leaving a shadow. I was hurt, but beneath the sting was something steadier, clarity. If she wanted time to see if she missed me, I would use the time to see if I missed her. More than that, I would make sure that if she came back, she'd find a man who didn't need her anymore. I decided my approach would be practical, not emotional. First, my health. I wasn't out of shape, but I had grown comfortable. I reactivated my gym membership that very night. Second, my career. I was good at my job as a senior analyst, but I had been coasting. There was a major project no one else wanted to touch, a full data system migration, the kind of assignment that could make or break a career. I walked into my boss's office the next morning and volunteered to lead it. Third, my space. Everywhere I looked, I saw her. Her clothes, her books, her little touches around the apartment. That weekend, I packed every last item of hers into boxes. I needed a clean environment to match the mindset I was building. 2 weeks in, I got the proof I had been expecting. A friend posted photos from a winery trip, and there she was, arm around Greg, the loud, flashy coworker she had always claimed was just a friend. They didn't look like friends. They looked like a new couple enjoying their first weekend away. Whatever doubts I had about her intentions disappeared. The discovery didn't break me. It freed me. It confirmed that the so-called break had been nothing more than a safety net for her. I doubled down on my plan. The gym became my therapy. The project at work became my mission. I stopped measuring time by her absence and started measuring it by my progress. By the second month, things were shifting. The pain had faded, replaced by a sharp focus that made every day feel purposeful. The gym stopped being a challenge and became part of my identity. I was stronger, leaner, and had more energy than I'd had in years. My confidence returned in ways I hadn't felt since before the relationship, stripped of the quiet criticism she used to lace into conversations. At work, the project was as demanding as everyone had warned. Technical snags, endless logistics, a dozen small crises a week, but I was thriving in it. Without the distraction of wondering where my relationship stood, I had space in my head for solutions. I worked long hours, led my team, solved problems others avoided, and found myself enjoying the respect that came with competence under pressure. And somewhere in that process, I realized I wasn't waiting for her anymore. I wasn't preparing for her return. I was building something entirely different, a version of myself that had no place for someone who couldn't decide if they wanted to be there in the first place. My boss, who had originally seemed cautious about me taking on the migration project, was now openly impressed. That was also around the time I met Sarah. She was a senior project manager from the tech division, assigned as the point of contact between my team and the IT department. From the first interaction, she stood out. Sharp mind, no unnecessary drama, and a dry wit that could cut through even the most exhausting days. We first spoke during late-night troubleshooting sessions, buried under lines of code and technical reports, trying to untangle one stubborn system issue after another. What struck me was her presence. She didn't make a production out of her intelligence. She simply knew her job inside out and carried herself like someone who didn't need to prove it. Between the technical talk, we discovered a mutual appreciation for the kind of ridiculous, over-the-top action movies most people pretend to hate. It wasn't flirtation at first. It was camaraderie. Two people who respected each other's ability to deliver under pressure. But that night, we finally solved a problem that had been holding the whole project hostage. The energy shifted. We were the last two in the office, running on caffeine and determination when she leaned back in her chair and said, "We did it." I told her it was a team win, something I couldn't have pulled off without her. She smiled, grabbed her bag, and said a victory like that deserved a drink. The first round would be on her. We found a quiet bar nearby, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about everything but work, families, ambitions, stories from years before. It was easy in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. Equal footing. No games, just two people being themselves. Days later, my boss called me into his office. His tone was serious, but there was a spark in his eyes. He told me he'd been watching the way I had handled the migration. He said I had taken on an impossible job and turned it into a success. Leadership, initiative, problem solving. All words he used before offering me a new senior lead position for the analytics division. Bigger team, bigger responsibilities, and a 30% pay bump. I accepted without hesitation. Walking out of that office, I felt like a man who had stepped into a completely different version of himself. The same man Amelia had dismissed as stagnant and lacking ambition was now one of the youngest senior leads in the company. That night, riding the wave of confidence, I called Sarah. I asked her out, not for another post-work drink, but for a proper dinner on a Saturday night. She didn't hesitate before saying yes. Meanwhile, whispers about Amelia filtered through mutual friends. The picture-perfect romance with Greg was fraying at the edges. Greg, apparently, was all show and no stability. Exciting in bursts, unreliable in reality. Amelia, who had always craved security, was reportedly growing restless and anxious, trying to pin him down. Her shiny new chapter wasn't turning into the story she had imagined. By the third month, my new life no longer felt like a recovery phase. It was simply my life now. Sarah and I had moved past casual dating into something steady and genuine. What we had was built on mutual respect and an understanding of each other's ambitions. There was no manipulation, no pretending, just two people building something in the open. The promotion changed more than just my paycheck. For the first time, I wasn't just working a job. I was shaping a career. And with everything moving forward, I knew it was time to close one last chapter. Amelia's boxes had been sitting in my spare room for months. They were relics of a relationship I no longer lived in. I sent her a simple message asking where she'd like me to send her belongings. No answer. A week later, I sent another, more direct. Still nothing. So I handled it myself. I rented the smallest storage unit I could find, paid the first month, moved everything inside, and sent the key and agreement to her parents via registered mail. No loose ends left. Then, 3 months to the day since she walked out, a text came in from an unsaved number. 3 words. I miss you. I stared at it for a moment. A year ago, it would have felt like oxygen. 6 months ago, it might have pulled me into a storm of mixed emotions. But now, it felt like it had been sent to the wrong person entirely. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, trying to figure out who could be sending me a message like that. Then it hit me. It was Amelia, the woman who had left me 3 months ago to chase something she thought was better. Her adventure must have blown up in her face. Greg, the charming guy she had replaced me with, was probably out of the picture. The net she had cut loose was suddenly the one she wanted back. Sarah was sitting next to me when I got the text. She noticed the puzzled expression I wore. "What's going on?" she asked. I turned my phone so she could see. "It's my ex," I told her. Sarah read the short message. Her lips curled into a small, knowing smile. There was no jealousy in her eyes, no trace of insecurity. She simply looked at me with quiet trust. "So," she asked calmly, "what are you going to do?" I glanced back at the words on my phone. "I miss you." The nerve of it almost made me laugh. She had ended things, gone public with someone new a week later, ignored my attempts to return her belongings, and stayed silent for months. Now she thought 3 simple words would erase all of that. I thought about the last few months. I thought about my mornings at the gym, my promotion, the woman beside me who matched my drive and my humor. The life I had now wasn't in spite of Amelia leaving. It was because she had left. She hadn't put me on hold. She had given me freedom. So I began typing. The message was brief, honest, and final. "Sorry, who is this?" I hit send without hesitation. Then I deleted the conversation and blocked her number. Whatever storm was coming next wasn't mine to manage. It didn't take long. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it ring out. Another call followed, then another. She was clearly borrowing phones, trying to get around the block. I ignored them all. Then came the emails, dozens of them, to both my personal account and my work address. The tone jumped around like she was spinning a wheel of emotions. The first was wounded confusion. "It's me, Amelia. What do you mean? Who is this?" "That's not funny, Mark." The next was full of anger. "After everything we had, you're going to pretend you don't know me. Our break is over. I'm ready to come home and you're acting like a child." The last one, sent late at night, was pure desperation. "Okay, I get it. You're mad. I shouldn't have just texted. Greg and I are done. It was a mistake. I miss you. I miss our life. Please, just call me." I read them all without feeling the heat of anger. Instead, there was a strange sort of pity. She still didn't understand. She thought I was punishing her for leaving. She thought this was some drawn-out game of revenge. What she didn't see was that it had nothing to do with her anymore. This was about me and the life I had chosen to build. I decided to close the book for good, but not for her sake, for mine. The next day, I called her from a blocked number. She answered immediately, voice full of misplaced hope. "Mark," she said, like my name was the answer to every problem she had. "Hi, Amelia," I replied, my tone steady. "I'm calling to tell you to stop contacting me. The calls, the emails, they need to end." "But our break is over," she said, her voice cracking. "I miss you. I'm ready to come back. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix," I told her. "This wasn't a pause, it was the end. You wanted to find out if you'd miss me. I guess your answer is yes. I used the same time to find out if I'd miss you. My answer is no. I've moved on." The warmth in her voice turned sharp. "You replaced me that fast," she accused. "I started living my life that fast," I corrected. "You were on a winery trip with Greg a week after you left. The difference is my new relationship began after ours ended. Yours began before." There was silence on her end. She had nothing left to throw at me. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Amelia," I said, and this time I meant it. "But it's not with me. Goodbye." I ended the call before she could speak again. That was the last time we ever spoke. It's been 6 months since that final conversation. My life with Sarah is more than I ever expected. We just signed a lease on a new apartment, a place that's ours from the start, not a space inherited from an old chapter. My new role at work continues to push me and reward me in equal measure. I am healthier, happier, and more confident than I've ever been. I heard through mutual friends that Amelia moved back in with her parents. Greg, the man who had once been her big adventure, was gone. She's apparently having a hard time getting her footing again. Her gamble for something better ended with her losing everything she had. Looking back, I can see that Amelia's so-called break was the greatest gift she could have given me. It shook me out of the rut I didn't even realize I was in. It forced me to stop waiting for life to happen and start building the life I actually wanted. The ultimate revenge wasn't plotting to hurt her or make her jealous. It wasn't proving anything to her at all. It was simply choosing to invest in myself to create something solid and meaningful without her in the picture. She had wanted to keep me in her back pocket as a safety plan. Instead, I became my own plan, and that's a future I wouldn't trade for anything.